Item 1. Gravity is optional.
You know, I actually prefer it to be like, not optional, but rather a staple thing in this world. Something I'd rather take than not being able to breathe when floating in the upper atmosphere.
Wait, if you are unable to breathe, how come you seems to be fine talking and breathing? This doesn't make sense.
Since when Discord makes any sense, and he's making even less sense than ever. Now if you excuse me, I'm gonna be busy falling.
I hope he realizes he has wings.
How is that possible? This doesn't make any sense, even for Discord standard. It's one thing if the episode makes him unfunny, but another if he's not just unfunny but also a jerk. I thought this can't happen to this series. Well, I was proven wrong in this episode. We all know Discord hijinks. Whenever there is an episode involving him, he'll go out and mess with others. Mostly Twilight. But still, I'm pretty much okay with them, as for the most part his agenda is to teach a lesson. He's a trickster, he seems to be doing so just for his entertainment, but in reality he tries to help you realize something, unless we're talking about dungeons and Discord. Still, add that to him messing with reality, which always result in multiple pop culture reference, and those are episodes worth looking for to see how much nuts the show stuff can go with it. But all of those episodes share one element. Discord never intentionally endangered lives. If something like that took place, likely it was something he had nothing to do, like that Tetsu worm in Three is a Crowd, and yet he pretty much done that here. It's not exactly the same put some army made of paper against Spike and Big Mac, as sending Ursa Major, Bugbear, living statues and paintings and several other ideas after students. Someone couldn't just get hurt, someone might get killed. And over what? It's understandable that he would felt left out for not even once being invited to visit a school. Heck, I know the feeling of being left out. But here's a thing. It doesn't allow you to put a temper tantrum like this over innocent outsiders. No matter, a regular mortal being or spirit of chaos bending the reality with the snap of his fingers. And you know what's the worst part of his tantrum? The fact that, in the process, he also endangered Fluttershy's life. Fluttershy! One pony that he cares the most in the whole world. One that, when he learned Chrysalis kidnapped her, he was super pissed off. Like, his eyes were literally saying, "I'm gonna erase the Changeling Kingdom from the existence." The one friend he was ready to become not chaotic, which almost resulted in him vanishing. And yet now he had no problem sending her somewhere Celestia knows where on a life-threatening mission just to mess with Starlight and school? All because of his temper tantrum? I don't think that's acceptable even in Chaos Realm, but I can be wrong about that. Certainly it's not acceptable in this realm. At least this is the reason I'm not surprised Starlight went as far as doing this.
What the what?
Yep, it seems like overreacting, but quite frankly, I don't blame her. If anything, Starlight was pretty patient to him for as long as he was his usual messing with everything self. However, Discord was endangering the lives of students she was in charge of keeping an eye on. She already was at the edge of her patience. Him calling her on her past only hit the final straw. If not that, she would lose her patience either way, because who wouldn't? She was put in charge of entire school, which is a huge responsibility. There is a reason why some education systems even state the maximum number of students that can be supervised by one teacher, which in results limits the size of one class. Meanwhile, Starlight was supposed to supervise the entire school, having only Spike to help. I know Twilight is running this place by her own rules, but still, this alone puts a lot of stress and pressure on Starlight. And Discord's dangerous hijinks are not helping at all. In fact, giving her reaction to this idea, I think she's still not comfortable with being a leader. Sure, during To Where and Back Again, she had to be in charge of the party and probably overcome her fears, but just like you can't deal with arachnophobia after touching Tarantula once, you can't also get rid of fear of being in charge after being in charge again. In a way, this is her phobia giving the reaction in Season 6 finale. However, despite her initial hesitation, Starlight was actually doing a pretty good job. If we would remove Discord antics from this episode, things are going well. School was in check, students were fine, classes were happening, nothing was destroyed, no student riot or something, and the Spellvenger hunt was also well organized. Everything was going fine, so she still did a good job. However, I still need to give Discord a credit, as he had one actually good idea: hiring substitute teachers. As much as Starlight was doing a good job, even if we would count Spike, there was still too many students for 2 people. Back when I was a student, whenever a single teacher was absent for a long time, the school was hiring someone new for that time, and we're talking about 1 teacher missing. Even if the school follows its own rules and we would count Spike, it's still 3 times too many students for 1 teacher. Having at least 3 more teachers is a good temporary solution for that problem. If, of course, those are better than the ones hired by Discord. There's however one part of the episode I'm conflicted about: the whole apology part in final act. On one hand, Discord was putting lives of everyone in the school in danger just to get what he wants, so in fact he deserves every punishment possible. On another, Starlight actually got a point in it. Even despite everyone not treating him like a plague, on many occasions he's still left out. School is one example. If we would look further, there's a movie he was nowhere to be seen around. Same goes to many other smaller events that are supposed to involve everyone, yet not him. Aside from obvious writing him out to avoid cheap solutions and show staff not being able to afford John DeLancey in too many episodes, the most possible explanation is the fact that ponies might still be afraid that, in typical to his fashion, he will simply mess everything up. So there still might be a bit lack of a trust. There's that, and the fact of how exactly can you punish someone who can just bend reality with the snap of his fingers. Starlight banished his body, so he returned as a ghost. Pretty sure there is no way she could actually punish him, at least without the elements of harmony. A big part of this episode is also Spike being actually in his better role than a punching bag, which is always welcome to see him as a competent character, great assistant to Starlight and voice of reason. You know, I'm actually on board with those who think those two have a great dynamic. It's sad we don't see them often, but when they do, it's actually something to enjoy, and it's no different in here. Especially given the fact he knows Discord well and right away can tell they are in troubles. And later he's trying his best to calm the situation between those two. I'm actually feeling that ever since he got his wings, Spike is now in much better position, and maybe now he'll be shown as a competent character with some comic relief moments that doesn't involve him being physically abused for our amusement. Besides all that, there isn't much to say. As much as I enjoy seeing more of Student 6, they are just there in my opinion. Probably to provide some convenience given the fact Celestia happened to have artifacts that belong to each of their respectful race and gave them to Twilight School just like that so they could have a scavenger hunt. Gee, I wonder if those will have a role later in season finale. Also, I have to agree, keeping powerful magical artifacts just like that and having them hidden but possible to be found and taken just like that, it's actually irresponsible. Someone could easily steal it, or even worse, use them to do something bad. I could also mention the reference skimmer, but let's face it, it wouldn't be a Discord episode without it. Plus, it's still not enough to save this one. You know, after What About Discord, I didn't thought that his episode can actually be weaker than that. Then this one came out and I was proven wrong. Sure, some elements were actually funny, some elements were actually done right, but the big element that sinks this episode is how much unlikable Discord was. Even if Starlight got a point of him being left out, it still doesn't justify he was endangering the health and life of students multiple times. One would be like, what the hell? I would go as far as saying this is Dungeons and Discord done wrong. Even though in both cases Discord tried to push his ideas on others, back then he was at least entertaining. This time, it's killed by how big of a jerk he is. Highlight of this episode are Starlight and Spike and how they are handling him and the school. At least until the final act, when I question how things were solved. Other than that, when I talked with Tricky Fox, one thing he had issue with in this episode is the fact that it could be split into 3 separate. One about Discord, one about Starlight running this school, and one about Scavenger Hunt. Personally, I've noticed that just after that, and I'm not sure what to think of that idea. However, I'm still with him with having ancient artifacts around is irresponsible. Even still, I will go as far as saying this is the weakest of Discord episodes to date. However, is it still one of the weakest episodes of this season? That's actually hard to tell because competition is tough. I'm Sharpwit, thanks for watching.